Well, welcome back to the second chapter of why you should use an electric guitar at church. I said that I was going to be talking about effects this time, but I changed my mind and I've decided that I should show you some things about the amplifier that I use and some thinking behind that so that you've got some sort of an idea as to how to get a basic decent sound straight away. Uh, this is a very, very cheap um, valve amp. Okay, so I think it retailed for about $1,000 Australian, which probably works out to about 500 or 600 US. It's 30 watts, Class A valve. Now, really, for most church gigs, that's total overkill. It's just way too loud, and especially if you're going to be going through the PA system at your church, and I genuinely hope you are. So really, you only use the amp to get a good tone in the first place, and secondly, as fallback for yourself. I'm not a big fan of speaker emulation devices for guitar. The the ones that sound good tend to cost a lot of money, and I can't afford that, and you probably can't afford that either. So I'm not going to tell you to go buy one. What I thought I'd do today is show you sort of the basics of how I have my amp set so that I get a good tone out of it. Now, valve amps help you if you can afford one, even if it's only 15 watts or even less than that, 5 or 10 watts. You can get quite a nice warm sound out of that amp, and by having it mic'd up at church, you'll actually do quite well out of it. This is how I set my EQ on the amp. I'll just show you. It's probably not super clear, but it'll help you for today. Okay, so uh, this section of the amp, that's just the initial input gain, and then these are the overdrive channels. I never use the overdrive on my amp. I use an overdrive pedal, which I'll tell you about next time. Next, I've got reverb here, and in these three are the EQ: bass, mids, and treble. This is how I have it set. So bass and treble both set at 12 o'clock, or absolutely in the middle. No cut, no boost. The treble I tend to boost round to about 3 o'clock. Okay, if you're thinking in terms of clocks. So bass and mid straight up, treble a little bit round. Now the reason I do that is because I feel at church you need some clarity. Okay, you need your guitar to sound as clear as possible. Okay, a Telecaster really helps with this if you've got a Telecaster. Strats as well, single coils, tend to sound a little bit clearer. And it means that you can get some acoustic guitar-ish sorts of sounds out of your amp and out of your guitar just by having the treble wound up a little bit. Now, you don't want to go too far and wind it up all the way. If you wind it up all the way, it's just too harsh for the congregation. They can't deal with it. And your EQ guy will be trying to turn it down in the PA. It's all bad. But this basic sort of setup, a little bit of bass in the middle, mids in the middle, treble wound up a bit, will give you a nice, clean, even sound with some glassy highs and set you up well. The next thing I'll tell you about that I've got here is reverb. And I like reverb as a basic background sort of effect. I leave mine on all the time. In fact, it's never set dry unless I'm in a hall where there's so much reverberation that would just make it washy and useless. Mine's set at about 3 or 4, just depends on your amp, but you need to be able to hear a little bit, but not too much. Now, immediately that you've got this amount of reverb, what it does is it's going to thicken the sound. It's going to thicken the sound of your guitar straight up. So if you're the only guitarist in the band, this is going to help your rhythm parts. Now I'm going to show you how to thicken your parts more with overdrive and delay later on, but this little amount of reverb can make a big difference to your sound, a very, very big difference. Now, for people who've got solid state amps, you might need to work a little bit harder to get a warm sound. You might need a little bit more bass. Okay, if I can give you one tip, do not scoop the mids out. Every metal player and their dog here who's owning a Jackson and wants to play Guns N' Roses and Metallica is going to scoop the mids out like that. Epic fail. Do not do that. You need an even sound. The finer points of that sort of stuff you can then change on your guitar if you think things are too MIDI. We can talk about that later, but you need an even setting if you're going to sound decent at church. That's what I would say. This is the second one. Hang around and I'll begin to show you some sounds in the next session. Thanks very much.